Hey everyone, we are here, first month of the year. We've got the snow here in Halifax, it's freezing cold, but the big question of course is how is the market performing? Given that we've gone past December, the whole Trump thing has started as well, so we've got all the fun and games and that. But the question is, what did we actually do in January? So let's figure it out. Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel if you've been one of those subscribers. If you're not one of those subscribers, then definitely hit the bell and obviously subscribe so that you get rewarded with all of the information that we've got coming for you in this brand new 2025 year here in the Halifax real estate market. Now, I've been going through these stats for like many years. So in terms of the knowledge of the market that we've got here, this is going to be a very interesting year. There's a lot of changes going on, and some of those changes are actually starting to show up in the first month of the year, which is January. So let's have a quick check now and see exactly what that selling price is compared to the list price. Well, we came in at a pretty lofty number. $663,500 was our average sale price for the month of January. Now, when we compare that to last month being December, that was at $623,000. We are up 7% on that number. Let's go back to January 24. That was at $577,000. We are up 15% on that number. So we'll go into it because there is some definite reasons as to why we actually had such a big jump from December to January, and obviously like January last year to January this year is a big jump as well. So we'll go into some more detail that we've got when we get into the individual markets on that. But when you look at that number, like $663,500 is a big average number. Compare that then to the list price of $675,000. That gives us roughly a 1.7%, $12,000 sale to list price in terms of where we actually end up. Now, of course, the list price is just the list price that was actually there when an offer was accepted. So what was the original list price? Well, the original list price was around about $11,000 higher, which is not too bad. But again, stay tuned. We're going to go into some of those individual markets and actually talk a bit more in detail on that particular list price to the list price that actually got the property sold, so we can figure out exactly where that number is, because that $11,000 doesn't really take account of some of the other markets that we're going to be talking through later on in the video. So stay tuned for that one. Now let's look at a quick days on market. Days on market were 48 days on market. So we're kind of rocking into that like month and a half, maybe even a month and 2/3. So we're actually getting up there now. We've gone from a market in 2024, arguably 2023, when it's been like a month or less. Now things are taking longer. 48 days on market. Compare that to last month, that was 39. So we're up 9 days on that. Last year though, it was 50. So pretty similar, 48 now, 50 last year. You're kind of going to, and some of the ignore the sale price, but a lot of the numbers that we're going to go through now are going to be very similar January last year to January this year. So the key thing here that we're going to talk to everybody about, buyers and sellers, is don't necessarily get so hung up on January. It's just the first month of the year. It tends to be quiet because a lot of people are going through December. They've done all the Christmas shopping. They've got the new year. They're thinking about going back to the gym and actually exercising. And therefore, what we're going to see is, as we've found, a little bit of a quieter market here in January. But like I said, this is just January. There's some leading indicators that we'll get into that I've been talking to people about that are going to show that it's not all that quiet. You know, it's just people getting ready. So those are the days on market. Now, when we look at the actual number of sales that we had in the month, we were only at 193. Go back to the start of this video and I was saying it was quiet. 193 sales is not that much. Compare it to last month, 238. But compare it to last year, 197. Kind of the same number. So it's very similar apart from the list and the sale price in terms of how we're actually looking this year to last year. So I'm not overly concerned when you look at December to January, how it's actually shaping up. I'm more interested in January to January because we are back into the seasonality of the market here in Halifax. You know, the definite ramp up for the spring, slow in the summer, ramp up in the fall, tail off a little bit towards the end of the year. We saw that last year in 2024. 2023, not so much. 22, 21, yeah, that was those COVID years. So crazy, flat out all the time. So we're getting back into a bit more of a normal market. And I certainly think that, again, apart from the selling price, we're starting to see that actually show up when we look at the numbers, and we're getting back into that seasonality. Now let's look at number of active houses for sale. 630 homes are active for sale this month. Now, last month that was 640, so yeah, it didn't really change. Last year that was 626, so didn't really change too much from last year. But of course, what happens when we have more houses for sale but less houses sold, because remember our sold number is down at only 193, is we increase the inventory. So we're up to 3.3 months of inventory. Less than 5 though is still, like, mathematically, yeah, we'll go with mathematically, termed as a seller's market. So we're still in a seller's market. But when you look at 48 days to sell and, 193 homes sold, it doesn't really feel much like a seller's market. But those are the numbers. That's what we are told. 5 to 7 is the balanced. 7 and above, you're basically getting into a buyer's market. And it's going to take us, if we get to that over 7 months, it's going to take us a long time to get there. And I just can't see it ever happening. So I think where we're going to say is, let's say I'm trying to think of the right words, almost like a higher seller's market, in terms of it's a little bit more favorable to the buyers, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I think it should. Sounds about right to me. Now, last month we were at 2.7 months of inventory. Last year, though, we were at 3.2. So again, apart from that sale price, it's looking very similar January now to January 2024. And I think that's going to be almost like a recurring theme that we're seeing in that first half of this year, in the fact that a lot of the non-price related numbers, we'll go with that, are going to be very similar this year compared to last year, 2024. One thing that could change that, of course, is that we are still seeing decreases in the bank-based lending rate. So mortgage variables are still actually coming down, and we're starting to get into the kind of like high 3s in terms of the mortgage rate. So that's becoming a lot more favorable. That's also going to push some of the buyers off the fence and actually start looking at getting into the numbers. Speaking of which, let's go to those leading indicators. So in my world, there's 3 leading indicators to how busy is the market going to be. Because of course, we're looking at what happened last month. We're here at the start of February. January's gone. So what we want to try and do is look at how is the market coming forward. 3 leading indicators. Number 1, is my sign installation guy busy? Number 2, is my photographer also kind of busy and booking up things in advance? Number 3, how are the pre-approvals with my mortgage broker? How's he actually doing? Well, the photography and the sign installation guy have said that it's not been stupid busy, but it's been busier than they expected in January 24. That means we're going to start seeing listings coming up in February and March as we kind of get towards spring. Go back to the third person, which is my mortgage broker. Shout out to Andrew Hutchinson from Indie Mortgages. He said that he has done the most pre-approvals for buyers in January this year than he's ever done in any January of his career. What that means for sellers is that buyers getting pre-approval, it means that they're starting to look, they're starting to investigate. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the pre-approval becomes an approval, because to get a full approval, you still need to have an accepted offer on a house. So it's the pre-approval that we can see that is actually the leading indicator for buyers going, do you know what? We should kind of get all our papers lined up. We should get all the information to the mortgage broker and see how we actually stand, because February and March, we think, and I certainly can see, becoming busy. You talk to some of my other agent friends, and certainly the board that I've got over here with what we're working on is getting full. So there is lots of people starting to look, and we've definitely got some good listings coming up as well. Okay, let's have a little look at what we call the sale to new listing ratio. So we want to compare the new listings that come on the market versus the sales we've had, and see how that number's changing. So this month we put 350 new properties onto the market for sale in January. We only sold 193. That puts us at 55%. So definitely putting more inventory on the market than we're actually selling. Go back to last month, that was the other way around. Sold 238, listed 186, puts us at 128% sale to list ratio. So last month, December, we were kind of eating into the inventory. This month we're going the other way and we're actually putting more properties on the market than we're actually selling. But again, compared to January 24, similar kind of story. 340 listed, 197 sold, 58% sale to new listing ratio. So again, all of the numbers, apart from that selling price, are kind of stacking up January 25 to January 24, looking pretty similar. Now let's go into those average markets, because when we get into these average markets, I want to go into a little bit more detail, especially on the list price to sale price, the reductions that take place, and all of those good things. Now, very interesting, because number one this time was back to Timberley Prospect St. Margaret's Bay. Their average sale price there was $608,000. List price of $634 gives them a 96% sale to list price. 52 days on market, getting awful close to 2 months there. Now, $26,000 reduction from the price it was when it accepted an offer to the actual sale price. But more interestingly on that as well, they had to do roughly a $4,000 price reduction. So going to go into a bit more, but we'll finish off these stats. So 23 houses sold, 93 active. That gives them 4 months of inventory. Now, go back into second place. Second place was actually Beaverbank and Upper Sackville count. Now, because of the boundaries that we have here in the MLS districts, that actually includes Middle Sackville. Now, they had 14 houses sold, 66 homes are active in that area, gives them 4.7 months. Average sale price, though, and this is where you kind of have to go, oh, this is Indigo Shores coming into here. This is Middle Sackville that we're bringing in, was $820,000. Average list price there, $839,500. That's roughly 2.3%, but it was 92 days on market. So again, some of those Indigo Shore houses in these higher price brackets definitely take longer to sell. But number two, never been in the top three before that area. So really interesting to see that that went in there. But again, only 14 houses sold out of 193. Very easy to come into the top three, top five housing markets that are selling inside of HRM when we have such low numbers. But $861,000 was the average original list price there. So they had to do a $22,000 price drop. And remember, there's a $20,000 price drop as well. So we'll tie this all together. Now let's finish off the top three here, because this is Kingswood, Haliburton Hills, and Hammonds Plains. Never, ever got into the top three before. 13 houses sold, 48 active, 3.7 months of inventory. $841,000 average sale price, $860 and a half average list price. But again, go back to the first price that they were listed at, $878. So a $17,500 price drop to get to the point where somebody wrote you an offer. So that covers off those top three markets. And again, you look at that one at a $19,000 difference between sale price and list price when it actually got an offer. So I went into all three of those markets because those are big price drops. You know, when you look at those and say, okay, we're at 97, 98% sale to list price. Timberley St. Margaret's Bay was only 96% sale to list price. Those are some big price drops. But included in all of those areas, Indigo Shores in particular, which is the Beaverbank, Upper Sackville, really Middle Sackville, 8 of those 14 houses that were sold were all Indigo Shores, and they were all over $700,000. 2 of them were well over, one of them was like 1.2 million, and another one was 2.2 million. But they had some pretty large price drops. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you just took at those ones, you're talking an average of $65,000 in Indigo Shores, Middle Sackville, from sale price to the list price that it was when it actually got. So you can see there's some big price drops. So then I said, okay, well, let's have a look at Kingswood, Haliburton Hills, and Hammonds Plains. same story. Only 13 sold, but there were a lot of them that were over the $700,000 price range, and those are the ones that are taking some big reductions in the price. So from a seller point of view, that over $800,000 price range, those are the ones that are getting some pretty large reductions from the final list price to what somebody is actually getting an accepted offer at. So some big price reductions coming up in there. So from a buyer point of view, if that's your budget, if that's where you're heading, you could be getting some pretty sweet deals out there. You could be getting some good money off. Now, when I looked at every house that's in the whole 93 houses sold, I looked at everything over $800,000 because in theory for us, that's obviously kind of bordering into what let's call the luxury market. Not necessarily in terms of house style, quantity, locations, but certainly in terms of a price point, over $800,000 is pretty much getting up there for us. In that over 800 range, there were 72 homes that were actually sold. So that roughly gets you like 740, roughly a third of the homes were over that 800 range. And their average price reduction before they got accepted an offer was a $42,000 price reduction. One of the ones actually was a $125,000 price drop before it then got an offer, and then actually the price was lower again. So when you look at those upper echelon markets, those are the ones that you're seeing some big price reductions. Now let's have a look at things like Lower Sackville, let's have a look at Spryfield, Fairview, let's look at Dartmouth and group all of Dartmouth together. Those are the markets that are actually kind of a little bit more in that, let's say, 500 to 700 price range. And those are the markets where you're not seeing too big of a price drop. So when we look at all of Dartmouth together, which is around about 7 or 8 different districts, it was only a $1,000 price drop from list price to sale price. So that's doing pretty well. Going into Fairview, it was only a $9,000 price drop. Again, average price point there, though, was only $480,000, and there was only 2 sales there. Spryfield, though, that was only a $3,000 price drop, 13 homes sold, so kind of like tied in the third position. And those are the markets where, yes, Spryfield average price point there was $577,000. So you can see that's that 500 to 700,000 range. That's where a lot of the buyers actually are, and we're not seeing big price drops in there. Once you get 700 to 800 and above, that's where you're seeing the big price drops. So that is the wrap up for the whole of January 2025. And don't forget to hit that button, subscribe. And if you have any questions, any comments, drop them down below. We would love to give you the answers that you need to the questions that you have. So reach out and get in touch.